Did Eagles fans just get some bad news going into the 2025 season? Let's talk about it and break it down. You're watching Eagles Now by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr. So glad all of you are taking time out of your day to hang out here with us. And I do want to start with today's poll question because it is the subject at hand for today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Will the Eagles go over or under 11.5 wins this upcoming season? Simply type O for over, U for under down in the comment section. And if you want to embrace debate between yourselves, you're always welcome to do that in the comment section as well. So you look at the highest over-under win totals for the top leaders going into the 2025 campaign, and all of these teams are looked at as either Super Bowl contenders, divisional contenders, or playoff contenders. So you have different classes here. You look at the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Baltimore Ravens. Those are the bona fide Super Bowl contenders because they naturally have the highest over-under win totals. All of those teams right now are at 11.5 wins. If you're a betting man or woman, you know exactly what we're talking about on today's show because a lot of people like to take the over or under on their bets, put some cheddar down, and make a bold proclamation for what a team is going to do throughout the course of an upcoming NFL season. And so Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens there at 11.5. The Detroit Lions, San Francisco 49ers in that next tier at 10.5. Then you have the Chargers, Rams, Commanders, and Texans at 9.5 wins. The Eagles, as we know, are the defending Super Bowl champions. They went out there in February inside the Superdome in New Orleans and absolutely took it to the Kansas City Chiefs. It was one of the most dominant and impressive Super Bowl wins that we have ever seen in the history of the National Football League. For 59 Super Bowls, rarely have you seen a team go out there like Philadelphia did and beat the brakes off an opponent to the level that the Eagles did in a Super Bowl, especially a Chiefs team that had gone on a dynastic run that was looking for 3 consecutive Lombardi trophies. And even though the Eagles lost some players in free agency, lost their offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, and Howie Roseman has lost a couple of members of his front office, the Eagles still have one of the best, most talented, deepest rosters in the NFL. And right now, top to bottom, from Jeffrey Lurie to Howie Roseman to Nick Sirianni to the entire roster, they are the class of the National Football League. But when you have a lot of success, and you've had a lot of success continuously to the level that the Eagles have had, it means that your schedule is going to be difficult. And the 2025 slate for Philadelphia is a very challenging one. And I've said this a few times, let's go back to it. I think that if the Eagles can stay healthy, they can handle this hard schedule, and they have an opportunity to go on a dynastic run. They have all of their marquee players, for the most part, under contract. They are still one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Nick Sirianni is a top 5 coach. Howie Roseman is the best GM, and Jeffrey Lurie is the best owner in the game. And with how much of a heater Howie and his front office have been on with the draft and in free agency, that allows you, when you hit on picks and you hit on free agency acquisitions, of course, you'll have some misses from time to time, but when you hit at the hit rate that the Eagles have hit, you can be a sustainable and consistent winner. And with this Eagles 2025 schedule, some takeaways that I have. No back-to-back home games, which I think is a little bit odd. Yes, I understand that when you win a Super Bowl and you finish first in your division, you are going to have a challenging schedule, but they also won the Super Bowl. So do them a favor and give them some schedule breaks if you can. The Eagles won't have an opportunity to just hang out in Philadelphia for a while because they don't have back-to-back home games. It's home, away, home, away. It's staggered in a way where the Eagles won't have an opportunity to really get comfortable inside the friendly confines. They have the biggest jump in difficulty of schedule from last year to this year. It's the 4th hardest schedule in the NFL. They have 11 of 17 games against teams who made the playoffs in 2024. And as we know, the Eagles are marketable. Their brand is worldwide. They have so many popular and marketable players. And this is an organization that's become world-renowned. 6 primetime games, and then that one Saturday game against Washington, which is kind of in a primetime spot. The Eagles, on top of playing 11 playoff teams, also have 6 road games against playoff teams. But they do have a rest advantage in 5 of them. So with that, let's take a gander at this Eagles schedule. Week 1, season gets underway Thursday, September 4th, at home against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. What a flex it will be that the Eagles can hoist that Lombardi Trophy and raise that Super Bowl banner right in front of Dallas and Jerry Jones. Week 2, Super Bowl 59 rematch on the road at Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 3, at home against the Los Angeles Rams. Week 4, on the road against the Buccaneers, a team that has been a pest for the Eagles in recent years. Week 5, the Eagles welcome Sean Payton and Bo Nix to Lincoln Financial Field. Week 6, up I-95 to the Meadowlands to play the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Short week there. Week 7, one of the more difficult places to play in the NFL, on the road against Minnesota. Week 8, against the Giants. Those first 5 games are really, really difficult for the Eagles. You flip the page. Bye week, smack dab in the middle of the season in week 9. I like that. Opportunity to reset. You come out of the bye, you're on the road against one of the more talented teams in the NFL, in the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Short week at home against the Lions on Sunday Night Football. Then you go on the road again to play the Cowboys. You're at home against the Bears team that I think is going to be much improved. That's on Black Friday. You play the Chargers on the road on Monday Night Football. That's going to be a home away from home game because Eagles fans always take over SoFi. Week 15, you're at home against the Raiders. And then you round out the year on the road against the Commanders on Saturday, on the road against the Bills. Then you play the Commanders for the second time in 3 weeks. So that is not going to be easy sledding for Philadelphia. And because of that, Pro Football Focus picked their over-under win totals for each team in the NFL. Remember how we started off the show? Over-under 11.5 wins. PFF is smashing the under. And here's what they said about the Eagles. What needs to go right? The Eagles return nearly all of their key contributors on offense, but none more important than the combination of Saquon Barkley behind the team's offensive line. Led by Jordan Mailata, 95.2 Pro Football Focus overall grade, Philadelphia's offensive line created massive lanes for Barkley, generating 2.2 yards before contact for backs, the most in the NFL. The Eagles will lean on their run game and a strong defense to again place at the top of the NFC food chain. And as we know, it's a huge season coming up for the Eagles offense and Saquon Barkley. Kevin Patullo going to take over for Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. How does Saquon manage coming off a year in which he led the NFL in touches? He's going to be 29 in February, getting a little bit older at that running back spot. Sometimes players at that position can age just overnight, and he does have a little bit of an injury history. I would say, working off of what Pro Football Focus said, that the Eagles offense is much more than just Saquon Barkley. When they needed to throw it, they threw it, and they threw it successfully. Remember when A.J. Brown said the biggest issue with the offense was passing? Then Jalen Hurts the following week goes out against Pittsburgh, starts slinging it, and the Eagles were really good through the air. Remember in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl, people would say that Jalen Hurts can't throw. He's been carried by the Eagles offense. What did he do? He went out there and he absolutely balled out. So this is not a one-dimensional offense. It's not just Saquon Barkley. So I think PFF is a little bit disrespectful there. You're not even mentioning the Super Bowl MVP in Jalen Hurts. That was their glass half full. This is their glass half empty. What could go wrong? The Eagles roster still profiles as one of the most complete in the NFL, but their road to the playoffs will be much more difficult this time around. Philadelphia's 2024 schedule ranked as the 10th easiest, featuring just 6 teams that went on to make the playoffs. In 2025, that mark was raised to the 4th hardest as they face 10 playoff teams, including road games against the Chiefs, Buccaneers, Vikings, and Bills. So obviously the data and some of the analytics and the sabermetrics can be a little bit different from site to site. We had 11 games against playoff teams in our schedule review. PFF is mentioning 10. I'm pretty sure that we're right. Say that again? They're not counting Washington twice. So there you go. Producer Chip with the dub right there. That's why he's the best in the business. Yeah, it's Washington twice. And so that is technically 10 opponents, but you're going to play 11 games against teams with the playoff record from the previous year. And it is right on point that it is the 4th hardest schedule in the NFL. And that's based upon winning percentage from the previous year and Vegas forecasted win totals, a couple of other ways to measure that. Now, my thoughts on the Eagles going into 2025, it's not going to be easy to duplicate their overall success as a team, nor is it going to be easy to duplicate that success on offense and defense, right? On defense, you lost a lot of key marquee contributors. We're talking starters and depth pieces. Philadelphia and Vic Fangio has to replace more than 4,000 snaps lost on the defensive side of the ball. I thought that Kellen Moore last year did a terrific job in making adjustments, in catering toward the team's strengths, coming up with new concepts and ideas to keep things fresh, because the Eagles' offense in 2023 was very vanilla and predictable. And so the pressure is on Kevin Patullo. This is an Eagles offense last year that was a top 10 overall unit and the best rushing offense in the NFL. There's also this. Sometimes you get health on your side. Sometimes there is injury misfortune. Since Nick Sirianni took over in 2021, the Eagles have been top 5 in overall team health. Health has been on their side. Last year, 21 of 22 starters who started week 1 started for Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. That's why the training staff and the medical staff on the Eagles Super Bowl parade float held up that sign. 21 of 22 starters in the Super Bowl. To start the playoffs, all 22 starters were healthy and available. Kobe Dean was the only one who didn't play in the Super Bowl because of that patellar tendon injury. And so if health can be on their side, the Eagles are talented enough, capable enough, battle-tested enough to escape and survive and deal with this hard schedule to still be a winning team, be one of the factors in the National Football League, a contender to win the NFC, and hopefully repeat as winners inside the NFC East. We talked earlier about Saquon Barkley, but if he goes down, that's a huge focal point of your offense that you have to figure things out without. The offensive line depth on this team is very steep. So I do think if injuries happen there in the trenches for Philadelphia, they'd be able to survive on top of the fact they have the best offensive line coach in the NFL in Jeff Stoutland. There are a lot of edge rusher question marks. The Eagles didn't make a trade for Myles Garrett. They haven't made a trade up to this point for a player like Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, or another star edge. Why? They want to have cost-controlled assets at the position. They want to save some money for some big contract extensions coming up, like for Reed Blankenship and Jalen Carter. They really like Nolan Smith and Jalex Hunt. But can Nolan Smith and Jalex Hunt carry what they did at the end of last year into 2025? That's a valid question mark. We always think, oh, this player is going to continue to improve, but sometimes players reach their ceiling. They plateau, and they don't get any better. Hopefully, Hunt and Smith are able to do that. Can Azeez Ojulari stay healthy? Can Josh Uche turn back to that 11.5 sack season that he had a few years ago? You have some questions at inside linebacker. Alongside Zack Baun, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. probably starts week 1. When does Nakobe Dean come back? Can Jahad Campbell get on the field as a rookie? Can he be impactful like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell were last year? Speaking of Quinyon, who starts opposite of him at that outside corner spot? Who starts at safety alongside Reed Blankenship? And can Jalen Hurts take another leap? If Jalen Hurts can take another leap as a player and as a passer, it'll do wonders for this Eagles offense because it makes them that much more difficult to stop. And so those are my thoughts on the Birds going into 2025. I predicted 11 wins for the Eagles, so I would go with the under just like Pro Football Focus, not by a lot, but by that half game. So, again, we show you this question here. Will the Eagles go over, under 11.5 wins? Over, you for under. If you want an Eagles Super Bowl hat because you still want to celebrate that wonderful Super Bowl performance, you can find them on sale. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/Super Bowl hat. There are kid sizes and adult sizes available. So all you have to do is plug in that link. It'll take you to Fanatics, and Fanatics will know that Chase Senior, Eagles Now, and Chat Sports sent you. Also, in addition to all of the long-form content that I give you right here on YouTube, I'm always talking birds on social media. You can find me on X at Chase_Senior. Same handle on Instagram.